I have the worst case of dyslexia people have ever seen. I had a full evaluation done by a State University of New York distinguished professor in psychology named Professor Holichka. And what she found was I had a baseline reading and writing skill of a 6-year-old. I went through the internship. I gave oral presentations for my research instead of written reports, which was a standard accommodation for me back then. And they recommended 15 credits of A minus. And I said, no more. I'm tired of this discrimination. So I went to solve my reading and writing issues in the hardest way possible.
Hi, welcome to Switching Mindsets. I'm Anuradha, and today I'm speaking to American Russell Van Brocklen, also known as a dyslexia professor, who is flipping the script for young, struggling readers. Hi, Russell. Wonderful to have you here.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I honestly tried to do homework, but you made it so easy with some talking points that you already had ready with you. So which really ignited my curiosity, and we'll get down to speaking about all the things that you mentioned and some other stuff. But to start with, I'd like to know about your own journey and what got you interested in dyslexia and your relationship with words.
Well, the thing is, I have the worst case of dyslexia people have ever seen. Um, I I decided to enter the New York State Assembly internship program in the late 90s. And before I went, I had a full evaluation done by a State University of New York distinguished professor in psychology named Professor Holichka. She's simply the top psychologist in the State University of New York system in Western New York. And what she found was I had a baseline reading and writing skill of a 6-year-old in
And how old
college.
were you? How old were you then?
Oh, this was when I was like 21, 22.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I just went going. I just kept going. So when I entered the assembly internship program, they didn't want me doing the typical internship stuff because I'd mess it up. So they put me in the majority leaders program and counsel's office, which basically ran the lower house of our legislature. And there are 3 administrative assistants. I went through the internship. I gave oral presentations for my research instead of written reports, which was a standard accommodation for me back then. And they recommended 15 credits of A minus. Goes back to my university, the political science department of the State University of New York at Buffalo. And what they said is, oh, we don't like these accommodations. So here's your 15 credits of F. And I said, no more. I'm tired of this discrimination. So I went to solve my reading and writing issues in the hardest way possible. I audited after graduation, law school, training to be lawyers, contracts and property. My second day of contracts, I went specifically to see Professor Warner, who was a dyslexic professor for decades. And he called on me. What they do, if you're interested in a movie, it's called The Paper Chase. What they do is they use the Socratic method. If you don't know the answer, they keep asking you questions to embarrass you in front of your 100 plus classmates to train you as quickly as possible to argue any legal point from any side, any time. That didn't happen to me. Things slowed down, organized. I knew what he was going to ask 3, 4 steps ahead of time. He knew what I was going to do multiple steps ahead of time. We're going back and forth politely but ferociously for 15 minutes. At the end, he said, Russell, in the interest of time, I have to move on. You couldn't be any more correct. My classmates looked at me stunned. The ones that continued on to graduation told me they couldn't do half of what I did that second class. Then I went on to property and for our quizzes, because they try to fool you in such an intense way that you're supposed to think for 3 to 5 minutes to answer a multiple choice question. I didn't think for 3 to 5 seconds. I got it instantly, and I was the first one done with perfect scores. I solved my reading within a matter of a month. And then the writing I figured out over the next couple of years. So then I went back and I said, I want my New York State government to fund my research. My professors said, impossible, we can't do that. Well, I got them to do that. So over the course, this is the most advanced, fastest growing thing ever in dyslexia. We took high school 16 to 18-year-olds. The requirement was they had to be highly intelligent, highly motivated, excellent family support, college bound, the ideal. And they were writing like they were 12. So I gave them a writing test called the Graduate Records Exam Analytical Writing Assessment, which is designed for 22-year-old college graduates who are applying to grad school. So I'm giving students with 12-year-old writing ability the writing test for a 22-year-old college graduate, and they're 16 to 18. The results were horrendous. Virtually all of them scored in the 0 percentile. Their spelling and grammar was disgusting, according to Dr. Lichka. One class period a day for the school year, about 180 sessions. The students increased from writing like 12-year-olds to writing like 22-year-olds. They had the writing skills of college graduates before they graduated from high school, which was at 18. Their GPA, their grade point, their scores in the test were between the 30th and 70th percentile of any graduate students. They all went on to college. They all graduated with grades between a B minus and an A minus. Okay, no accommodations. Private schools can do that over a number of years at a cost of about $150,000 back then. This cost New York State less than $900 per kid. But when I presented in New York City, we ran into a problem. They said, "What about normal students?" I said, "This is absolutely not for them." And the professors came to me and they said, "We don't care about, these students now writing at the 70th percentile of any graduate students. We want a book called The Craft of Research." Are you familiar with the University of Chicago at all?
No, no, I'm not.
Okay. It's the most well-known American university that nobody's
I mean,
heard
I've heard of
about.
the university, of course. Yeah.
Okay, you heard of the
Yeah.
University of
Yeah, yeah,
Chicago.
of course. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just, in America, you got the 8 Ivy League schools, Stanford and Chicago. Those are the top 10. They came out with a book in 1995 called The Craft of Research because their PhD students didn't know how to write advanced research papers. Now, in its 5th edition, it's dropped to really advanced high school kids. And I mean really advanced. I've dropped it to 4th grade or 9-year-olds. So essentially, I'm going to now go over the model of how this works. And this works great for not only dyslexic kids, kids with attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and general students as well. You will find that the dyslexic students are a lot slower, but they go a lot deeper. But I've taught this to a lot of gen ed advanced placement English students as well. All right. So when we try to move this to normal kids, normal motivation, normal intelligence, what we found is we had to start off with a child's speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability, or they just wouldn't pay attention. So you were mentioning your nephew. He's really interested in the Diaries of a Wimpy Kid.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And football and cricket. Yeah.
Okay, but let's just focus on so his speciality. How you determine that is you ask
Yeah.
your child. It's a Saturday morning. You have nothing to do. They can do whatever they want. What will that be? And that's their speciality. Now you just mentioned 3, but if
Yeah.
he's already has a book that he likes, then let's go with that book. So what the goal is, and this is really important for parents with dyslexic children, is we want to focus on helping them read that book. Okay. Actually reading it. So first one, we start off with what they're really interested in. That's for your nephew, Diary of the Wimpy Kid. Next, a lot of parents ask me, well, how do I know if my kid's dyslexic or attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? And how severe is it? Instead of spending an extreme amount of money on a neuropsychological evaluation, which requires a psychologist with a PhD and a lot of additional training, I came up with 2 questions that pretty much do it for treatment purposes. The first question we ask is we ask your child in your speciality, which is for your nephew, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question with little to no organization. So again, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with key question with little to no organization? If they say yes, That means ADHD, I'm sorry, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or at least mild dyslexia. Next question for what you really care about. You want to write something. We always type. We don't handwrite because trying to write the letter W compared to just hitting a key takes up so much mental energy, it kills our grades. So we want to type about something for the diary of a wimpy kid, as for your nephew. Fingers, keyboard. I literally take my fingers and put them up by my head. Fingers, keyboard. Fingers, keyboard. The idea is in your head. Take your fingers, put them on the keyboard. Once you do that, does the idea fly out of your head, leaving you with an empty brain? Okay. If they say most students will say no to that, who answered yes to the first question. If they say yes to the second question, that's severe dyslexia. Don't worry. What it means is two things. It's going to take them longer to learn, but once they do learn, they are going to go much deeper. And once they enter graduate school, after a bachelor's degree, once they enter graduate school, then they will literally own the place. Okay? It is, for example, my original research program. How long do you think it took me to get that approved by Professor Collins at SUNY Center of Buffalo? It was normally takes years. How long do you think it took me?
Um, Months, a week from what you're telling me?
Less than 2 weeks.
See, I was right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Everybody else took years. All right. Then I was
amazing.
funded by the university for 15,000. Then a few years later, I was funded by the New York State Senate. So you asked those two questions. Yes to the first question means mild dyslexia or the attention deficit disorder things, or yes to the second one means severe dyslexia. What you're going to notice is once you do that, the child is going to be very shocked. How did you know? Okay. And then we say, what we're going to do to solve your problem, because when you answer this, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to force your brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to force your brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Now, when we ask the student those two questions, they get confused how we know that. You can just tell them, well, you spoke to a dyslexic expert who went through this, and this is what he found for himself. All right. And when we especially say we're going to focus on your speciality, the key thing you need to understand is these are senior dyslexic professors at major research universities. If you ask them to learn something general to the specific, they don't know what to do. Okay. So, like, for example, for India, you might say, what caused the split initially between Pakistan and India back in the time of Gandhi?
Right.
Well, that's a general question. All right. The dyslexic has no idea what to do. But if you ask, what compelled Gandhi to do his nonviolent protests to break India away from the British Empire, now you have
Right.
something to latch onto
Yeah, that's
and you can
specific.
go out from there. Yes,
Yeah.
that's how you have to teach these kids. And lastly, there's a book called Overcoming Dyslexia from Yale University where they do brain scans. I just happen to have the second edition, page 78, figure 23. It shows the back part of the dyslexic brain has almost no neural activity, but the gen ed student, general education student's brain is going crazy, but the front part is 2.5 times overactive. That deals with two areas according to Yale. Word analysis first, followed by articulation. So that's the model. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that you have some parents in your audience where their children are essentially writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words and they just don't know where to start?
Right.
I'm going to show you how to I'm going to show you how to fix that in 5 minutes. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Great.
All
Yes.
right. Just so you know, if you come to the United States, specifically New York State, where all this started, and you go to a private school that's $80,000 or more a year, they will take, once your child is 9 years old, it will take 4 to 5 years of a private dyslexic school to get them to solve this concern. I'm going to show parents how to do this right now, how you can start doing this at home yourself. So, what is your nephew's name?
Ishan.
Ishan. Is that, you get that right?
Yes, yes, you got it right.
Okay. Okay. So what we do is we have you parents go to a real laptop, not an iPhone, not an iPad. They don't work. You got to use a real keyboard. You type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to switch hero for Ishan. Plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to go with the thing he likes the most, which is football, for example.
Yeah,
Hero. So we got Ishan plus sign football. See how we got there?
right. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Now, what we need to do is we need to replace the plus sign, which is a default writing strategy of visualization, Dr. James Collins Strategies for Struggling Writers. We got to replace that plus sign with a word to come up with a proper uh, three-word sentence. When I teach this to special ed teachers in New York City every year, 90% of them get it wrong because they don't follow exactly what I ask them. So you're going to have to do exactly what I asked to make this work. Are you ready?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You think I'm going to fool you?
No, no, absolutely. I'm having fun. I want to hear more.
No, but you okay? So the teachers always mess this up, 90% of them,
No,
because
no,
they don't
you're
do
not going to fool
exactly
me.
what I
I'm
ask.
sure what you're going to give is more practical and hands-on. I'm looking forward
Okay,
to it.
but here's my question: do you think I'm going to fool you? Are you going to be able to follow my directions or not?
I'll try. I think I'll be
Okay,
able to. I'll be able to. Yeah, why not?
good answer. So right now we have Ishan plus sign football, and we
Okay.
need to replace that plus sign with a word. So here's my question.
Yeah.
Very specifically, does Ishan like or dislike football?
Like, likes, yeah.
Okay, replace that word with a plus sign, and what is the three-word sentence?
Ishan plus like football.
No, no, nope. Get rid of the plus sign. We're replacing it that word. So we're
Okay. So,
replacing the word with.
yeah.
Here's my question: to replace the plus sign, does Ishan like or dislike
Yeah.
football?
So it should be Ishan likes football, but yeah, Ishan like football. Yeah.
But that's not what I asked.
Ishan like football. Yeah.
Nope, nope. See, as an educated, I asked, does Ishan like or dislike football?
Yeah.
As an educated person, you automatically added the S
Yeah.
and replaced the plus sign. As
Right.
a dyslexic, Ishan cannot, assuming he was dyslexic, he could
Yeah.
not add the
So he's
S.
smarter than me. He'd probably get it right. But yeah.
No, no,
Okay. Huh.
but let's assume he's dyslexic.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Okay, but here's a subtle thing I need to make sure you understand.
Yeah.
You automatically added the S
Yeah.
and completed the sentence. The dyslexic can't add the S. They don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So what would happen is if Sean was dyslexic, he would have say like, because that's what I asked him.
Yeah.
It would have
Yeah.
been, is Sean like football?
Yeah.
Okay. But we have to teach a dyslexic how to add the S because they don't know how to do that. See where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you do that?
Adding that S is again, we're talking about what Bill Gates, if his children were dyslexic, what they would do. They would use an Orton Gillingham multi-sensory structured language approach where you see, hear, touch, every sense imaginable. And getting to teach a dyslexic student to add that S would literally take you weeks to learn. We're talking 2 years, you have to have a bachelor's degree, 2 years of education at $11,000. It's like a master's degree. All right.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had to come up with something much more efficient than that, how to teach dyslexic students to add the S. So what we would do is, here's the one caveat. I would have to preassume that the child can speak proper English. Okay. As a general rule, if you can speak proper English, your child will speak proper English. And what I know from a month and a half trip with a college friend to India is really the one of the unofficial languages of the educated classes in India is English.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just assume he speaks proper English. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask the student to read out what they wrote out loud. Ishan, like football, and then you ask Ishan, here's the key question: does that sound generally correct? He's going to say no. Then you tell him to fix it. Ishan likes football.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You you do that with a list of 10 likes and 10 dislikes. And now instead of what one special ed teacher told me, the child writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words, you have a 3-word sentence. Took us less than 10 minutes to teach you that.
Yeah.
That's a starting point. Now, what else do the university's professors tell me? Based on that model, they want what is known from the craft of research. It's based on 3 things: context, getting everybody on the same page; problem, reducing it to a problem statement; and then coming up with a solution where the reader would actually learn something at least moderately original. If you can't do that, if they don't learn something at least moderately original, they say don't write the paper, which would pretty much eliminate virtually every essay written in North America in high school and college, even at Harvard. That's how this is incredibly high standard. So what I came up with was to teach, for example, in English. I'm sure you've probably went through Romeo and Juliet at some point in your life.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I want you to imagine you're at one of the finest English teaching schools in India, and the teacher's been teaching Romeo and Juliet for the past 20 years. What do you think the chances for a student, 12 to 18, would actually write an essay where the teacher would actually learn something? What do you think the chances of that are?
Very low, I think, because I just remember when we had Shakespeare in school, we were just learning like bunches of monologues, you know. That's what we're learning,
Hmm.
soliloquies, etc. And Romeo, Romeo, where art thou? And the Shylocks, pound of flesh and whatever, I don't remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
exactly. So you follow, and the teachers can tell you exactly the number of times, and they can tell you about the paper 13 years later because it's
yeah,
so fixed in their head.
right.
You follow the process that I can show you, and every time a student turns in a paper, the teacher learns something at least moderately substantive. So if they have 20 students, 20 papers. And when that happens, the teacher's absolutely shocked. Like, I actually learned something from each student. What is this? It's been reduced to a formula. So let me give you, just to get to a problem level. So what I'm about to show you is a very simplified version of what we do to get students to be able to write what a well-read student would come up with. Okay. So as you know, when you were there, all the smart kids were pretty much writing about the same paper.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Because smart people, given any situation, smart people from anywhere around the world are pretty much going to come up with the same general solution.
right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's how we do that in a simplified version. Going through the craft of research, I'm going to show you a simplified version for context and problem. So what we do with context is we go ahead and we go to a scene that you're interested in. It's a character you're interested in. We pick out a hero. The hero wants to do something. Okay. So let's just take, for example, Romeo and Juliet. What character do you remember the story that well at all? Or
Yeah, yeah, I remember. I mean, warring families and Romeo and Juliet fall in love and
okay,
that, yeah.
okay.
And then it
Give
ends in
me a
tragedy. Yeah.
character. Give
Hmm.
me a character that you know very well. What character from Romeo and Juliet that you think is legitimately the hero of the story?
I don't know, but I'm suddenly remembering that I'd gone to Italy and I went to that place where there's Juliet's balcony. I suddenly remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So is Juliet the hero of the story?
Juliet is the hero of the story. Yeah. Because I can remember her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is it that Juliet wanted to? What was her dream outcome in one sentence?
To marry Romeo.
Okay. Juliet wanted to marry Romeo. Now we're looking for, remember where I said, first of all, third step of the model, we're doing word analysis. So we pick 2 types of words. One is an action word, which will take Juliet in the general direction she wants to go. The second one is the most important word, and then we decide which way we want to go. So for Juliet, she wants to marry Romeo. What is the action word to bring her towards her goal?
What is the, sorry?
What is the action word? What is the word in that sentence that'll
Wants
bring her
to, yeah,
wants? Exactly.
yeah.
What's the most important word of that sentence?
Marry,
Marriage. Okay,
yeah,
yes. Okay. So that marriage, that second word, that is going to be our base universal thing.
yeah.
Now, what I would have you do, this is how we to get a dyslexic to build up a vast vocabulary, is I usually use for the online dictionary Merriam-Webster's. You might use Oxford English or any solid dictionary. It has to be online, not a book. Dictionary.com is banned because it's too simplistic. I would have you go and find the definition of marriage, and then you have to type out the word marriage and the definition you pick. Okay. If you copy and paste it, you are losing everything. It is worthless. You have to physically type it out. Now, here's my question for you. How many times would you have to type out the word marriage and the definition you selected to have that permanently committed to your memory?
I don't know.
Yeah, for you, it might be a couple of times.
Couple
For
of
a
times, yeah.
dyslexic,
Maybe a couple of times, yeah.
yeah, for a dyslexic, it might be 10 or 20 times. Who
Yeah, a
knows?
couple of times, I think. Yeah, because I just attempted these
Yeah.
multiple choice questions, so I went over it twice and I more or less remembered them. Yeah. So yeah.
Right. So at some point, like for your nephew, it's the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. If we were using that as an example, he would we would pick a chapter and he would keep going over this until he knew every word in that book.
Yeah,
We were to give him
I
an
think
audio. Yep.
yeah, yeah, he knows all his books
Yeah.
by heart. Huh.
Right. But if he's dyslexic, we would get an audio book with it.
Yeah,
They
if
would
he
listen
was,
to the
yes,
audiobook.
you mean if he was dyslexic, then the audiobook would be better.
Well, no, we would here's what we would do if they were dyslexic.
Okay.
They would take the audiobook. They would follow along with their finger in the real book, trying to answer a
Ah,
specific question. What does the hero
right.
want to do? So by listening to it, following along, and then asking what does the hero want to do, that chaos in the front part of the brain that's 2.5 times overactive is reduced by 70 to 80%. Okay. And once he comes across a word he doesn't know, he he types out the word, goes to the Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, finds his definition, and types it out. And we keep having him do that as he's going through the first chapter until he can read the chapter.
So,
Okay.
when my nephew was younger, I got him this book, this Karadi Publishers in India. So they did exactly this. They had these books which you read along and the story plays in the background. So you're listening to it and at the same time you're reading it. So is that what you're saying pretty much?
Right, but
Okay.
this is more specific to dyslexia.
Yeah.
They're going to repeat that. They're going to repeat this going through that first chapter.
Yeah.
And they're gonna listen to it, read it, following it along with their finger. They can control the pace of the narrator. They can slow
Okay.
it down.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're trying to answer a specific question. What is it that the hero wants to do?
Right.
Every time they come across the word they don't know, they type out the word in a Word document, go find out the definition, and then they have to not copy and paste because that's worthless. Then they type out the definition, and they keep repeating that with the first chapter until they can read the chapter. Once you're at chapter 4 or 5, typically the kid more or less is reading the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to save you hundreds of thousands of US dollars in private school tuition for years. All right. Now,
Yeah.
going back to the court, what I was telling you about, we would do that, and as I said, I don't. Eventually, as you go through this, the kid will have it down. And just so you know, if the kid is doing this at age 10 to 12, when they're 16 to 18 and taking their Scholastic Aptitude Test, SAT, to come to a U.S. university, the vocabulary test is almost exclusive. The verbal section is almost exclusively vocabulary test. They already know the words.
Yeah.
They don't need to study hundreds. They already know them. Okay, so going back, I'm just going to use. We would go with marriage, and normally what I would do is you'd go to the thesaurus. The problem you're going to find with the first, with your baseline universal theme, is that you're looking. It's very broad, and what you want to do is keep going. 5 of them, 10 synonyms, the whole level, multiple levels where the kid doesn't know what the word is, they type out the word and they type out the definition, and you're trying to find a definition. Here's the key point that best matches what's in their head. Okay. Now, I'm just going to use the base universal theme
Yeah.
just to illustrate this point. So now we have Juliet plus sign marriage. Now the last one is the ultimate villain. It's a person or a concept best who can best prevent Juliet from becoming married. Who is that? Is it a person or is it a concept?
Concept, I would say, because
Okay,
yeah.
what's the concept?
Um, en enmity, warring for families,
Em
enmity. Yeah.
Enmity. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we got Juliet, marriage, enmity, separated by plus signs. So we get rid of the plus signs. Remember, they're there to tell you need to add words, subtract words, or move things around. Juliet wants to get married, but the universal theme of enmity is preventing her because, and then you list three good reasons.
Yeah.
Okay. Each reason, we kind of turn each reason into a universal theme, and then we go and we find a direct quote that deals with it. Okay. So now we got three quotes. For
Yeah.
each quote, we answer who, what, when, where, how, why. So we have a
Right.
quote, who, what, when, where, how, why. We take all of that information. This is where I would start using artificial intelligence to help out with this. Are you familiar with ChatGPT?
Yes, absolutely. Hmm.
Okay. So what we do is we'll put in the quote, who, what, when, where, how, why, quote, who, what, when, where, how, why, quote, who, what, when, where, how, why. And then what we need to do is reduce that slowly to to one medium or long sentence. Okay, to
Okay.
slowly reduce that to one medium or long sentence. And so how you do that is you're going looking at the quote and you're looking at all those answers. Do I really need this? If not, get rid of it. And then slowly
Yeah.
reduce the quote to its essentials. And then you pare that down until you have one medium or long sentence. And I'm not talking about some crazy long sentence that's paragraphs. I'm talking like a typical longer sentence. So you want to get it as short as possible. And that's a lot of steps, but the artificial intelligence can help you do that. Then the next step is you take that context and you say there's going to be a problem, and that's for a short to medium length sentence. See how we're getting smaller?
Yeah.
So then you ask the artificial intelligence to help you to come up with a short to medium length problem. And then from that, you want to reduce that to a one word universal theme. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the context, and the universal theme is, it's like love, hate. Um, Another example I like to give: have you ever played competitive sports in your life ever?
Me, no, no.
Okay, all right. Would you ever involve competitively in getting good grades in school or anything like that?
Debates, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, you did debates. How
Yeah.
did you feel when you trounced the other person in a debate?
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a
exactly. It's
sense of
called, thrill
achievement.
of victory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you win something like that, something
Yeah.
competitive, that's the same feeling that any human will have across time, across race, across geography.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That's
Yeah.
a universal thing. Do you remember when you were debating and you got trounced?
Yeah. Terrible. Yeah.
Yes, same thing. You just said terrible. That's your universal thing.
Yeah.
Okay. It's exactly what it is. So what we do is we'll then take the context, medium to long sentence, and run it through the universal themes as a lens, and we'll come up with one to three solutions. Okay. Now, once you do that, those solutions are going to be obvious answers to what a well-read student should come up with. Okay. Like, for example, Romeo and Juliet is a tragic story of teenage love.
Yeah.
Okay. Just really obvious. But here we're getting much more specific. Okay. Much more specific. So we're talking about Juliet wanting to get married, but the primary villain concept got in the way, as you discussed. All right. We run that through the universal theme, and we have in this very narrow, specific context what the teacher is expecting to read, and get very disappointed if they don't read it. Okay, so that's how we do things to come up with what the student should be saying very quickly. Once you get used to doing this, I have business executives using this to come up with here's the obvious solution to this problem. Tell me which one you like. And they do this in a matter of minutes. Much more efficient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Using the who,
All right.
what, where, when, how, right? And then narrowing it.
Right.
Yeah. In
Narrowing
minutes,
it down.
quotes,
But remember,
bringing out quotes, narrowing down little by little, right?
right. But here's the thing. The key thing is we said we get quotes. So
Yeah.
those reasons after we have the what I call the half circle, hero, universal theme, and villain, the because, each one of those because we turn into a simplified universal theme, which allows us to find a direct quote.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we answer the base questions: who, what, when, where, how, why. And notice I
Yeah.
put why last because generally it's most important. And then we work with the artificial intelligence to narrow that down to a medium to long sentence. And that does take a lot of steps because what you want to do is
Yeah.
go back and start knocking things out. That is where the time commitment is to get that down to one sentence.
Hmm.
Then coming up with a problem statement's easy, and then reducing that to a universal theme is easy. And but then we take the context and look at through the universal theme as a
But would
lens.
you say, I'm sorry to play the devil's advocate, but would you say that
Mhm.
ChatGPT is doing the heavy lifting here?
It's but you have to go in small steps or it'll mess it up.
Okay.
The thing about I am one of the very few people that spends $200 a month on the pro version. This is the summer of 2025. The
Yeah.
most advanced model is 03 Pro. You ask it to do anything, yet you're waiting 10, 15 minutes. Okay.
Right.
You have to guide it correctly. You let it go off on its own and you're spinning your wheels. You're going nowhere.
Yeah, I
It's like
agree.
a,
Yeah.
yeah. So you have to go very slowly, step
It's a
by
very good
step.
assistant in my experience. It's ChatGPT is a good assistant. It's a good tool. Yeah.
Right. But if you don't take it very slowly, step by step, your context is going to be garbage and then the
Yeah.
rest is garbage.
Yeah.
But once you get it down to a medium to long sentence, why a long sentence? Because there's only so much information the human brain can take before it starts losing it. Okay. So you get it down there. The problem is easy enough. The universal theme is easy enough. You run the context through the universal theme as a lens for 1 to 3 solutions. Why that? Because everything is basically a 5 paragraph essay. One solution per body paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay. Now then we show parents how to teach their kids to do evolved craft to the research body paragraphs.
Hmm.
Okay, remember what I said? This was initially designed for PhD students at the University of Chicago. Then they dropped it over years, over 30 years to really advanced 16, 18-year-olds. I've dropped it to 9-year-olds. We do
Yeah.
context at 9 and 10. We do problem at 11 through 13, and we do solution 14 and
But
over.
this would be good for any kid, right? Not just a dyslexic
Right.
kid. Yeah.
This is the craft of research. And what
Yeah.
I can tell you is the head of Anthropic, the CEO of Anthropic, Claude, okay, he says, this is in the United States, in 5 years, up to half of the college graduates will be unemployed because the artificial intelligence will be doing things for them, which I can see. So you have to be able to manage the artificial intelligence and then guide it. And if you know the craft of research, let me give you an example. I had a student, this was last year, he knew nothing about artificial intelligence, wanted to know nothing about it, but his new boss said, I overhired. Those who give me good ideas keep their job, those who can't, bye-bye. So he calls me up in a panic. I said, you've been trained in the craft of research. You don't need to prompt. Every time they come out with a new model, you don't need to learn new prompt engineering. I showed you how to prompt engineer your brain. So what we're going to do is I told you, you've been trained. Go and work with artificial intelligence to come up with a context. He said, I have no idea. I said, you've been trained in the craft of research. Just go talk to it. Type into it. Come back. He did. He came back. And I said, go do the problem. He comes back again. He says, I hate this. I said, welcome to the adult world. So then he came up with the solution.
Yeah.
So then he turns in his 5 paragraph essay. The boss is going through, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. Oh, that's a good, come to his. Oh, that's a good idea. We can use it. Guess who got to keep his job?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're showing you, I just gave you the overview of how to go through the problem, the real values and the solution, but that takes quite a bit of time to learn. So that is essentially dyslexia. That's how
Yeah.
you overcome, and it is perfectly valid. What you will find with let's say the kid answered yes to both those questions, and their older brother and sister are typically, you know, top of their class academically. So in India, they would probably be accepted to the Indian Institute of Technology. Here's what I tell them: once you get out of college and you go to graduate school, you'll find that the dyslexic goes drastically deeper. Graduate school is very narrow. It's in their speciality. Day one, you go in. What can you contribute to this field? And the dyslexic tells them, top of their class, day one. The idea, the original concept is the currency of the realm. Getting good grades on tests doesn't matter because if you weren't an excellent student, you wouldn't be there. So
Yeah.
essentially, that's it. So what questions can I clarify in that process?
Yeah, so I want to go back a bit where you said that, you cleared and you basically aced all the oral exams, right? And you taught yourself and you fixed your issues with dyslexia. I'm trying to frame it
by
correctly.
going right at by
Yeah,
going into the hardest place imaginable, which is law school.
yeah. So, so how did you fix it? Like, I mean, like in a couple of months? Is that
It,
it?
no, it all it was essentially. Remember, I was telling you about Professor Warner,
Yeah. So what
and
did you
I
do?
could just go back. It all just came to me during those 15 minutes. That was the solution. Everything just lined up, and then it was just a matter of implementing it. I said, wow, this place is a joke. This is so easy. Well, then I got to legal research and writing and found out that that's my Achilles heel.
When you say everything just
Okay.
lined up, what do you mean?
It just lined up. It, this tends to happen with dyslexics, where finally they put in all this effort over years, and then it's like you ever have an epiphany, a moment of extreme clarity where you got a big idea?
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine that lasting for 15 minutes.
Hmm. Okay.
That's essentially what happened. And people can't imagine. I'm like, yeah, but that's why I went to see Professor. I just said I knew something like that was going to happen at some point. I wasn't expecting it to be the first student in the second day of contracts class.
Yeah. Yeah, so coming back to dyslexia and for parents and with their children, you've said that, children who dread reading, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, you've given the example of, while they're reading the oral narrations going on and asking questions. So that's great. That's a great way. But do you get that anywhere or is that available?
Yeah, reading is the biggest problem, but they think that reading is the problem with dyslexia. It's
No, I mean
not.
the
It's a
process that you described, where the
Mhm.
tape is going on and you're reading and then you're getting asked those questions. Is that available somewhere, or is that just something that
No, no,
happens
yeah, that's my own personal
your
system.
own personal thing? Okay,
Okay,
so what can
and we
parents
we
do? Yeah, what tools can you give
okay.
parents? Yeah,
Okay, so if parents want to know more about that, just to make sure I have this correct, how do you pronounce the name of the podcast?
my podcast, swishing mindset.
Yes, swishing mindset.
Swishing.
Okay, so I want to
Yeah,
make sure I get that correct. So if you go to dyslexia classes, you type in dyslexia classes slash swishing mindset, it'll
mindsets.
bring you
Yeah,
to a page.
yeah.
Sorry, dyslexia classes slash swishing mindsets. Okay, you will be brought to a page where you fill out a short form, and there's a document that says the three reasons your dyslexic child's having trouble in school and how to get past it. You fill that out. It's just three questions. It sets up you go and make a calendar event with me on Zoom. All right. And it's 15 minutes, a half an hour. I speak to your child. I ask those two questions and I see if they're interested in doing it this way. If they're dyslexic and they answer they answer yes to any of the questions, they're normally like, "How did you know?" I said, "You think you're the only one? I went through this." All
Yeah.
right. And once I have to get a yes from them, or I'm not the person for you. And then it's just a matter of showing the parents, discussing how we can show them it's a year-long course. All right. We meet once a week as a webinar, and all the instructions we pre-send you right away, and you just follow those, ask questions when things aren't working, because the child's not going to get some parts for some reason. We explain you how to do that each week, and you just work with them, a couple of times a week, and you'll start seeing massive improvements right away.
Amazing. I'll be sure to share the link in the show description. And
Mhm.
thank you for that. And finally, Russell, any story that you'd like to share about any success story? Any
Oh, okay.
child,
Yeah, I'm going to show
struggling with
you
reading? Yeah.
this. I know this is audio, but I'm going to show you just so you can see it. This is my most successful student. Her name was Casey. This was her speciality. She was interested in an
Okay.
American president called Theodore Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. Yeah, yeah.
900-page book.
And her name is, I
Okay.
can see the name. Yeah, Edmund
Here,
Morris. Okay.
yes. Okay. This
Yeah.
book is designed for 16-year-olds to 8 to 19-year-olds, depending on who you ask. Casey was 10, reading like she was 6. Okay. So I gave her that massive book. I showed her a version of the process I told you tonight about hero, universal theme, and villain.
Yeah. So a
She
900
spent
page book on the rise of Theodore Roosevelt. That's what she was reading.
yes,
Okay.
designed for 16-year-olds to 19-year-olds. Okay. She was reading like a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
So 3 hours a night, 6, 7 nights a week, most of the days during the summer, for 6 months. She was in her room. She brought this book in 6 months later. Now she's 11. Okay. They're in a silent reading class. The students come over and pick up, they're reading Harry Potter and she's reading this monster. They come over, pick up her book and say, "What's this?" She said, that's my book from an outside reading program." None of them could get past the first paragraph. She knew the definition of any word in that book.
Yeah.
All right. So her mom gets a call home. "We thought your daughter had a severe reading problem. She's the best reader in the class by grade levels. What's going on?" So her mom calls me. I said, "What do you think she's been doing in her room all those hours, every night, all the time?" "Oh," I said, "yeah, I never saw that before. I'll never see it again. Normally, it's a minimum of a year to do that. Typically, 18 months to 2 years is still quick." Okay. But I spoke with her for 15 minutes a week. That's it. Okay. And she did all of this on her own. So when they say reading can't be done, well, a 10-year-old did it. Okay. With minimum instruction.
Yeah. So you helped
She was,
unlock something in the brain.
I just did exactly. I went over and I gave a different version of that hero universal theme villain.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
slightly tweaked it I do writing first because I
Okay.
expect reading to self-correct. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I do that? Because if you can write it, you can read it. Remember how I told you type out the word in the definition?
Right.
You do that. You do that some number of times, you're going to know that. You develop a vocabulary over 3 to 6 months of hundreds of evolved words, and that's the springboard to get you reading at grade level. Okay. She decided to go differently, but that's just an example. A ten to 11-year-old child, her birthday was in the summer, over 6 months was now reading at a level that would be fine for university students. Okay. If she can do that, the child can figure that out. Parents can teach their children how to do this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, so basically, yeah. What else can I answer for you?
Yeah, I think you've pretty much covered a lot of it, and I think it's really going to help parents. How can you get them to pick up a book? Because most kids don't
Well,
pick up a book. I mean, reading is okay, learning is okay. How do you make it fun for them, especially for kids who are dyslexic? It's hard work. It's something you put off. How do you get them to
well,
do that?
you have to get a book, an audio book in their speciality.
Okay.
It's literally that simple. Like to
Yeah.
give you an example, this is I'm showing a book called Walt Disney: The Triumph of the American Imagination.
Yeah.
Walt Disney passed away in 1965. This monster's 1,000 pages. It's written for 17 and 18-year-olds. I give that to 10-year-olds. Okay. 2 years later is one example. The mom asked, "Well, can my daughter read?" And I said, "Okay." Go find have you ever been to Disney World or Disneyland?
No, no, I haven't.
Okay.
But
If
I'm
you
sure,
go
of
in to
course, I've
meet
heard about it. I've seen pictures. I know it's awesome.
Well, if you go in, it's supposed to be the most magical place on earth.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. You enter the Magic Kingdom, you enter Main Street USA, which is Marceline, Missouri, where Walt was between age 5 and 10, and he tried to recreate that in the parks.
Yeah,
So you go in there, you're feeling the Disney magic, and that's based on two universal themes. One is really simple to find, and it's 10% of the value. The second one is really hard to find, incredibly hard to find, and it's 90% of the value. So I would ask the mom, okay, you have a master's degree. Your husband has a master's in business. What's the second universal theme? They can't find it ever. So then their 12-year-old daughter will go, Mom, here it is. And I said,
yeah.
well, your 12-year-old daughter can comprehend, understand reading better than you can. Did I do my job? And the parents they're like, we've read this several times. It was right in front of our face. And I said, exactly. See, dyslexia is not a reading problem. It's a symptom. Like a cold is a problem in your chest. A symptom is a stuffy nose. We have things that treat the symptom. Orton Gillingham, multi-sensory, other programs treat the symptom. I'm focusing on what the big area is. Remember what I showed you the research from Yale. The front part of the head is 2.5 times overactive. It's word analysis followed by articulation. The problem is the dyslexic brain is functioning so rapidly with little to no organization.
Yeah.
So we force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output.
Amazing. Yeah. Slow it down. Yeah.
It's
Organize
literally
it.
that
Organize
simple.
it. Yeah.
And people will say, well, you're dealing with these big books and you're dealing with the same book for 3 years. Exactly. I will spend 3 years with a kid on one book.
Okay.
Okay, and the schools want them to do all these other books, and then they won't do the work. You stick in their speciality, they do the work. So if you're teaching your nephew on a diary of a wimpy kid, and he has to keep going back and doing a lot of work from that book, and he has a reading problem, let's just say that was the case, he will do the work. You give him a book on what's the one thing he hates the most?
That he
Like,
hates. He didn't like the Secret Seven. Enid Blyton's Secret Seven. He didn't like that.
okay,
But he
okay,
loved the
imagine we
magic.
signed
He loved the magic Faraway Tree, but he didn't like Secret Seven. Yeah.
imagine we said, okay, you got to spend a lot of time on the Secret Seven. Can you see instant problems?
Sorry?
If the book he disliked, The Secret
That's a
Seven,
book he didn't pick up. Yeah. He didn't like it. Yeah.
imagine we now assign him that book for the next 3 years. See the problem?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So it's literally that simple. So I gave you the model of what that is. So let's just in the United States, okay, pick out the book. I'm just going to give you the one that's most popular, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Okay. Or Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You stick with those books, great. The kids are interested. They give us all these other books they have to go through.
Yeah.
Exactly the worst thing to do with a dyslexic. Then they teach from the general to the specific and not the specific to the general. The dyslexic has nothing to latch onto.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they don't teach word analysis followed by articulation. So now you got a kid where you're trying to teach in an area that functions in the back part of the brain where we have virtually no neuroactivity and we can't do it. And we're called learning disabled because of it. Stupid. Our educational system is designed for kids with a massive activity in the back part of the brain. We have massive activity in the front part of the brain, which is the exact opposite. So that's why parents can be far more effective doing this at home. You know,
Yeah.
go ahead and fill out that form so I can speak to with you and your kids, and I can show you. We can walk this through and do it personally. And
Yeah.
does this work with AP kids? Advanced placement kids? Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with a dyslexic kid, and then their older brother and sister are finding out, wait a second, you're dyslexic and you're younger and you know more words than I know. You're doing more advanced books than I'm doing. I don't like that. So then I show the older kids how to do it, and they fly through it. The kids that are gen ed students, they fly through it, but they still find that their younger brother or sister who's dyslexic goes a lot deeper.
Hmm. Great. Just one last thing, Russell. I know that you've explained it before, but when you say specific to general, can you give an example of that?
Specific to the general. Okay, so let's say again, for example, when we're dealing with, for example, trying to get India to be free from the British Empire. That was Gandhi.
Yeah, you gave
Okay.
Gandhi's example, but I'm saying, yeah, okay, carry on. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Oh, would you like me to use a different example?
Something which a parent can use at home with a child, to encourage reading, vocabulary, or any concept. I mean, I'm thinking like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you that familiar with Harry Potter in
Yeah,
India?
I am. I am. I've read three of them, not the
Okay.
entire series. Yeah.
Okay. So let's take, for example, what is it that Harry, he's our hero. What is it that Harry wanted to do at the beginning of the first book, The Sorcerer's Stone? What did he want to do?
He wanted to enter the school. That's what he wanted,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
he wanted to enter that, he very
Yeah.
specific. So
Yeah.
Harry
Yeah.
wanted to something very specific.
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of so that's specific to the general. What's general to the specific? Why didn't Hogwarts accept uh, why is it hard for Muggles to I'm sorry, why is it hard for Harry to go to a private school or something like that?
Okay.
Okay,
That's general.
nothing,
That's general.
yeah, nothing to latch onto.
Yeah. Right.
No latching onto. The front part of our brain is 2.5 times overactive.
Hmm.
It's flying around our head at light speed, no organization. We have to nail down something specific and then force it to think linearly.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add,
That's what.
Russell? Yeah.
Nope. That's pretty much it. I would just say go ahead and contact me, and I can see what I can do to help your child out. And here's the next thing. Remember, what I'm showing is the craft of research. So as you learn context, problem, and solution, once you learn all three, your child's going to be in an excellent position to get a job later on, especially using artificial intelligence. Because I can tell you, I'm sure you understand a lot of companies are coming to India to outsource. A person in the United States might cost them $100,000. And they get a
Yeah.
much better deal in India.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
India
Yeah.
is an intellectual, yeah, India is an intellectual country. A lot of the writing, 30 years ago, 20 years ago was a problem because you can tell if you're not a native writer. Well, you're writing now through artificial intelligence. That barrier's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So you understand how to do this. You can apply this to any model in artificial intelligence. And as it gets more advanced and it starts doing things for you, you can guide it, even if you know nothing about it. If you understand concept, problem, solution, you're golden.
Okay. Thank you so much, Russell. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks for having me on.